$220,000. That is what a couple from Brisbane paid for a brand new motorhome in late 2021. They drove it for 3 years, kept it serviced, kept it garaged, looked after it like a newborn, and when they tried to sell it this year, the best offer they got was $118,000. 118. They lost over $100,000 in 3 years, not because they crashed it, not because they neglected it, because the motorhome market in Australia has fallen off a cliff, and certain types of motorhome are now, for all practical purposes, worthless. Nobody wants them, and I don't mean they're slightly hard to sell. I mean the phone doesn't ring. Listings sit for months with no inquiries. Price drops go unanswered. Dealer trade-in offers come back so low people think they're joking. And when you look at the data, the reason is clear. Class A motorhomes lose 30% of their value in 3 years. Class C loses 38% in 5. And that's in a normal market. This is not a normal market. Today I'm telling you which motorhomes have lost their value in Australia and why. 7 categories that are now sitting at the bottom of the market with nowhere to go. I'm Liam. I'm 50. I've been in this industry my whole adult life. No sponsorships, no brand loyalty, nobody paying me a cent. Everything here comes from industry depreciation data, documented market pricing, AC data, and first-hand trade experience. Let's go. Number 7 is the ex-rental fleet motorhome. Every year, the major hire companies in Australia rotate their fleets. They buy new motorhomes, run them for 2 or 3 seasons with back-to-back bookings, and then dump them onto the used market to make room for the next batch. In normal times, these ex-rentals sold quickly because they were young, low Ks, and cheap. But right now, the volume being dumped is enormous. Apollo, Brits, Maui, and the smaller operators are all offloading at the same time into a market that's already oversaturated with new stock that dealers can't shift. The result is a glut of 1 to 3-year-old motorhomes hitting classifieds at prices that undercut private sellers trying to move their own units. If you're trying to sell a 3-year-old motorhome privately, you're competing against ex-rental stock that looks identical to yours but is priced $5,000 to $10,000 lower because the hire company just needs it gone. Your private sale price has to drop to match, and suddenly you're looking at a depreciation hit that feels like it came out of nowhere. It didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of the rental yard. Number 6 is any motorhome manufactured between 2021 and 2023. The COVID years. Demand was through the roof. People couldn't fly overseas, so they bought motorhomes instead. Factories couldn't keep up. They hired anyone they could find, stretched experienced staff across too many builds, and substituted components when supply chains broke down. An independent repairer in South Australia publicly described COVID-era caravans and motorhomes as the worst builds he'd ever seen, and the AXON survey found 80% of RV owners experienced a fault with their vehicle. Half called it major. If your motorhome was built during that window, it was manufactured during the lowest quality period in the industry's modern history. The used market knows it. Buyers are actively avoiding 2021 to 2023 build dates, and the ones that do sell are going for significantly less than equivalent units built before or after that period. A 2020 build is now worth more than a 2022 build of the same model. That is not normal depreciation. That is the market pricing in quality risk. Number 5 is the oversized Class A motorhome that requires a light rigid or medium rigid license to drive. In Australia, any motorhome with a gross vehicle mass over 4.5 tons requires an LR license. Over 8 tons, you need an MR. That immediately eliminates the majority of potential buyers. Most Australians hold a standard car license. They can drive a Class C motorhome or a large camper van without any additional qualification. But the moment a motorhome crosses that 4.5-ton threshold, the buyer pool shrinks to a fraction. A $200,000 Class A sitting on a truck chassis is a magnificent machine in a showroom. It's a nightmare to resell. The people who can afford it might not have the license. The people who have the license might not want the fuel bill. And the people who have both can smell desperation on a listing that's been up for 6 months. If you own a large Class A, you're not selling a motorhome. You're selling a lifestyle that fewer people every year want to buy into. Quick favor before I hit the top 4. If this is saving you from a bad decision, hit subscribe. It costs nothing, and it helps this reach the next person who needs to hear it. On we go. Number 4 is any motorhome from a manufacturer that no longer exists. Infinity Motorhomes on the Gold Coast was closed by the Supreme Court after it was established the company had never been solvent. Never. Not for a single day. The motorhome conversion company collapsed in 2019, leaving $3.6 million in debt. Kimberly Campers went through voluntary receivership, was resurrected, then entered formal liquidation in 2018, with half-finished vehicles auctioned off online. If you own a motorhome from any of these brands, your warranty is gone, your parts pipeline is gone, and your resale value has cratered. A motorhome is only as good as the company standing behind it, and when that company disappears, so does your investment. Trying to sell an orphaned motorhome is like trying to sell a house with no title. Technically, it exists. Practically, nobody wants to touch it. Number 3 is the slide-out motorhome with degrading seals that hasn't been maintained. Slide-outs are the second most common repair issue across the entire RV industry, behind only air conditioner failures. The mechanisms jam, the rubber seals crack and perish in UV. And when those seals fail, water enters the cavity between the slide and the body. In a caravan, that causes wall damage. In a motorhome, it can cause electrical system failure, mold throughout the living space, and corrosion of the chassis cab integration points. A slide-out reseal and mechanism overhaul on a motorhome costs between $3,000 and $8,000, depending on the size and complexity. If the water has already entered and caused secondary damage, you're looking at $15,000 to $25,000 in structural repair. At that point, the repair bill exceeds the resale value of the vehicle. Nobody is buying a 10-year-old motorhome with a failed slide-out. They'd rather buy a van without one. Number 2 is the overspec'd luxury motorhome loaded with technology that is now obsolete. The motorhome industry went through an arms race of electronics between 2018 and 2023. Touchscreen control panels, integrated satellite systems, proprietary apps that controlled lighting, heating, and water levels. Bluetooth connected everything. The problem is that consumer electronics have a shelf life of about 5 years before they become unsupported, and a motorhome has a useful life of 15 to 20. A 2019 luxury motorhome with a proprietary 8-inch touchscreen running software the manufacturer no longer updates is not a feature, it's a liability. Replacement screens cost thousands. Integration with modern devices doesn't work. And buyers looking at a 7-year-old motorhome see a dashboard full of technology they'll eventually have to rip out and replace. The more tech a motorhome had when it was new, the faster it's depreciating now, because all of that technology has become a maintenance burden rather than a selling point. And number 1, the motorhome that has lost more value than any other category in Australia right now is the one that was bought brand new at full recommended retail during the absolute peak of the COVID boom in 2021 or early 2022. During those 18 months, Demand was so extreme that dealers stopped discounting. Some were charging above RRP. Finance was cheap, buyers were desperate, and people paid $200, $250, sometimes $300,000 for motorhomes that, in a normal market, would have been priced 15 to 20% lower. Those buyers have now been hit 3 times. First, by paying peak price in an inflated market. Second, by the normal first-year depreciation of 20 to 30% that motorhomes always suffer. And third, by the market correction of 2025 and 2026 that has crashed used motorhome values across the board, as dealer yards overflow, manufacturers collapse, and ex-rental stock floods every platform. The combined effect is a value loss that in some cases exceeds 50% in under 4 years. A motorhome bought for $240,000 in early 2022 might now be worth $110,000, $130,000 gone. That is not depreciation. That is a financial catastrophe, and it happened to good, careful people who simply bought at the wrong time. So the recap. 7 motorhomes that are now worthless in Australia. Ex-rental fleet dumps, COVID-era builds, oversized Class A rigs needing a truck license, orphaned vans from collapsed manufacturers, slide-out motorhomes with failing seals, tech-loaded luxury rigs with obsolete electronics, and peak COVID purchases at full retail. My honest takeaway is this. The motorhome market in Australia is in the deepest correction it has ever experienced. Values are falling, supply is flooding the market from every direction, and buyers have all the power for the first time in a decade. If you need to sell, price it honestly and move it quickly, because waiting 6 months will not make things better, it will make them worse. Every month, more ex-rental stock enters the market, more new stock gets discounted, and your private sale price drops further. And if you're buying, this is the opportunity of a decade. Quality used motorhomes from stable manufacturers like Avida, Sunliner, and Winnebago are sitting at prices that would have been unthinkable 3 years ago. Just make sure you check the build date, check the manufacturer's current status, inspect the slide-out seals, ignore the touchscreen, and negotiate like your financial future depends on it. Because right now, it's a buyer's world. And if you're sitting on a motorhome you bought in 2021 or 2022 and wondering whether to sell now or hold, I'll be honest with you, the market is not coming back to where you bought it. Not next year, not the year after. The COVID peak was an anomaly, and the correction will settle at a new normal well below those prices. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you can make a smart decision with whatever equity you have left. Share this with someone who's trying to sell a motorhome and can't figure out why the phone isn't ringing. It might save them months of frustration. I'll see you in the next one. Check the market before you check the mirror. This content reflects the presenter's honest opinions based on publicly available information, including industry depreciation data, AC reports, documented manufacturer collapses, market pricing data, and first-hand trade experience at the time of recording. Individual experiences may vary. Always conduct independent research and seek professional advice before making any purchasing or selling decision.